I'll say it this way. So I run a seven-figure business, and somewhere between 30 and 40% of my leads come from stuff Cam and I do together.
What is going on, everybody? Cam here, back at it with another client interview. I got my guy Elliot here. Elliot has been honestly one of my favorite projects and favorite clients to work with over these past few months. I'm not going to do a whole lot of rambling here, but Elliot, tell us a little bit about your business and specifically what you do.
So I run an accounting business that does financial due diligence for small business acquisitions. So think about buying a car wash down the street, manufacturing business on the south side of town. Somebody says it's making $1 million in profit. You would hire me to check those numbers and make sure they're not off and you're not buying a limit.
And to even break it down a little bit more, Elliot, if somebody is trying to acquire a business under $5 million, you are like the go-to person on how to get that business deal done.
Oh yeah, I forgot to say I'm pretty good at it. And I am the go-to person, market leader, the guy who's not necessarily the cheapest, but tries to be the best. And then frankly, as a result of that, a lot of the work I do is also coaching people on how to go from I want to do a deal to I just closed my deal. And there's some educational products that are coming out as a result of me having such market dominance.
Yeah, some educational products and some big wins that I can't wait for us to talk about here in just a second. For now, though, can you describe, man, Elliot, we started working together. I looked at the numbers in November, so almost a year. Can you describe where your marketing process was before we started working together? And then I'm going to ask you a little bit later to talk through about it after. But for now, where was it before?
So before, my main sort of lead generating channels were Twitter and my email list. And both of them had sort of gotten to stalemate or, diminishing returns. And so I was doing well, but having trouble getting leads the way I wanted something fresh. And I'm in a very dynamic market where people are entering quickly and innovating quickly. And I had always owned the innovation leadership, and I didn't want to let go of it, but I felt like I had, sort of exhausted all the resources that I had in my hand at that time.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, because this is a funny story, right? I DM'd you and then I emailed you, right? And I sent you for it's really, really funny. It's a tagline. I promise I don't use it anymore. But I was like, I'll turn you into Hormozy, right? Like
That's
I've seen
right.
some of your video content, seen some of your a lot of the stuff that you had done. What was that process like? Like the process of us actually working together. What did you think whenever you first saw the email or the DM? I don't know what you saw first. What was that intro process like?
It was the DM, which I still laugh at because 99% of cold DMs I'm sending to the trash. But to give a little side note, I've been on probably 100 podcasts. So I have a lot of video on my YouTube, but again, it wasn't great organized, and it was still my compilation of stuff I had done on other people's channels that fit my marketing, but it wasn't designed to generate leads. So when I saw the DM, I want to Hormozy you, I was like, what are you talking about? Now I knew who Alex Hormozy was, but I was like, how does this turn into a verb? And then I kind of asked you and you were like, yeah, I'm going to turn you into, a figure in your industry like Hormozy. And I was like, well, dang, I'm already on that path, but I'm not leveraging YouTube the way I want. And simply, in my head, I'm like, look, if he's that bold to say, I'm gonna make you into a person with 100 million followers or whatever it is, I'm willing to make an investment to get started, knowing that the worst downside is I go a month or two and turn it off. But I'm a year in, and I just asked, I asked you, did you need to send me another invoice 20 minutes ago?
And it's funny that we go there because you're in this idea that I've been working on is make yourself a big fish in a small pond, not a small fish in a humongous pond. So you're in a very niche market. You are not showing people how to start businesses. You are not talking about how to cat videos, right? Like we're not talking about trying a thing that you need to get 100 million to people. In a lot of B2B spaces, you need to get like 3 to 5 every single month. People who are convinced inside of your lead flow and then eventually closing. So one of the things that is so cool and how I knew even before talking to you that you would work is looking at some of the podcast stuff, some of the video content stuff you had out. It was like, he's captivating in what he's saying, but the message, he doesn't own the message because you were on podcast. And I was like, if he could take this idea that he just articulated so well on the podcast, and the people on the podcast made a bunch of money from, or a bunch of clicks from, and put that on his own channel with his own initiative, his own goals around it. In my head, I was like, well, there's no way that this can't work, because it's technically already working. It just doesn't have the proper systems to scale. And then if I even want to take it a step deeper, one of the coolest things about you is your deal size. You are helping people acquire $1 million businesses, several $1 million businesses, in a lot of cases. Which means those people need to spend more time in order to make a bigger purchase decision, because, you know, I don't know if you want me to disclose your numbers on here, Elliot, but you're not selling cheap stuff, you know, like.
Oh no, my cheapest item is $20K for like a full product. I have smaller, like, consulting, really just loss leaders to get people into the funnel. And then it's the deal size is so important because it's both large enough that people aren't playing around. Like, I'm a conduit to somebody making $1 million decision. So $20,000 doesn't seem all that big in comparison, but also I'm not trying to go after people doing $10 million, $20 million deals, which puts me like on Main Street, which, again, to your niche point, I'm dealing with everyday people, which allows me to speak in layman's terms and capture my niche audience. And that becomes a big part of how I, you know, go out on the YouTube channel to speak these messages at the level where anybody can understand them.
Almost exactly. And I think that is the cool part. So now that we're inside the YouTube part, talk through, I guess, like the call recordings, right? We've done some in person and we do a lot of our stuff virtually, but can you talk through the process of both, what it's like to actually record the YouTube content now that we've got a lot of everything rolling?
So I'll take a step back and then answer that question. I had hired a fractional CMO years ago who pushed me to start doing videos on my website, and it was an uncomfortable feeling, but I did it. Did some what I would call bootleg MVP videos. They were better than nothing, but they were definitely bootleg. And I didn't enjoy the process. I had filmed some videos in the class and did not enjoy the process of like the prompts and the structuredness and like, no, every word in this thing needs to be said this way. And the thing that got me and Cam working so well together so quickly was his process. So I'll talk about the virtual one, then I'll talk about the online one. So the virtual one is just like this. Pop up with a video. We discuss what titles we want to talk about. He gives me time to kind of bullet point out directionally where I'm going. I do sort of the first part of whatever topic we're doing. And if we're going for a 3-minute video or a 5-minute video, Cam will ask the Friday questions to kind of keep the conversation going. And I'm just answering the questions like I'm talking to my best friend or teaching a class. And so what that did for me is go from filming processes to, frankly, I hate it. I mean, I was going to do it to push the business, but I hated it, to now something that I love doing that's also generating a lot of business. So that's the virtual piece. It's really just a conversation. It's the easiest thing I've ever done. And then the in-person is even better. I had the fortunate opportunity to speak at Harvard Business School. Cam was nice enough to come up and film it. And I was just able to go out in front of the class and speak about sort of how my product affects their $1 million deal purchases. And Cam took care of the mic, where the camera was, making sure the angle was right, lighting, all of these things that I didn't have to touch, think about, consider. And so you're sort of nervous because you don't get a second chance to go do something like that. And then when it comes out super clean and like just pristine, really, you're sort of like, whether it's in person or virtual, you know, Cam is maximizing the opportunity that you have, but leveraging in a way where it's convenient and fun for you. Because you're going to do stuff that's fun in a way different and better way than you do stuff you hate. I probably went from 5 to 10 videos I own the message to now 100 plus that I own the message. And the first 10 were a year. We've been working together about a year. So, I mean, just think about 10x the production, and I'm way more excited about it.
Mm-hmm. And man, that really warms my heart to hear, because it's always a little tricky to pin down somebody's communication style, right? Like you have the super cool ability where I can be like, hey, Elliot, we're going to talk about this, this, and this today. You take a second to jot out some points, and 30 minutes later, we have a month's worth of YouTube videos, right?
Right.
There are some people, however, though, who like I have to talk to sometimes several weeks in advance and say, hey, here's the point, here's the thing, here's where we want to go.
Yep.
But I think, it's just my opinion, the reason why a lot of the videos have been so successful is because people can watch your video and you're talking to me, right?
Yep.
But what the person on YouTube sees, it feels like you're talking to them. And it's almost like what I try to do a lot of times on our calls is I'll ask myself, if I was Elliot's target customer for this message, what questions would I have? What would I be thinking about? What would I want to know? And then the only thing I do is ask you those questions. And I think that kind of helps draw out some of the things that your audience is already looking for. So, man, it is unbelievably cool, man. It's just so cool to think about how that process works.
And you're underplaying it a bit. The other thing that you do is you think about, you'll come to meetings with, here are the videos that you should be doing because I've seen other people do successful things with them, because I'm in market doing research all the time. And I'm going to say that again. When your person's in market doing research every time, when they wake up thinking about the thing they're doing, they're bringing that knowledge to you in real time. So you basically get like a researcher on your team without even needing it. And then also we tried a couple of like specific tactics marketing wise that we may talk about week one, discuss kind of broadly how they work with my ICP, my target customer, and then do them the following week. They hit YouTube the next week and they're hugely successful. But I didn't think of that idea. I didn't execute it. I didn't switch up kind of the location I was. Here's how I talk. I showed up, I was the talent, I delivered the message, and I left. It was just that simple. I never have to worry about, I just showed up, delivered the message, and left. Like, you clean it up.
I'm getting chills. I don't know if you can see it. I appreciate that so much. That's so cool, man. Because one of the videos that I saw the other day, and I was like, man, this would be amazing, is we're launching through your course. And after like the main service you talked about, there's also the info product stuff that you mentioned in the beginning of the call.
Yep.
And I'm asking myself, these people want to know this information from Elliot. What is the most dynamic, fun, attention-grabbing way to give them this? But it needs to happen quickly. Like, we need to get data in this process as quickly as we can.
Yes.
And we came up with the video, I'm deleting this in 72 hours.
Yes.
And dude, it was so much fun because you start out the video with the freaking right, like a home run hit. And the only thing that happens is it creates FOMO, it creates scarcity. People are now excited about what you're talking about. And then they're saying, where can I get more of this? And the whole thing is like, look, man, we won't actually launch the thing until the next week. And then the next week, like what the thing works and everything is successful. And it's just, it's so cool to see communication styles, marketing messages, and then like the things that I can obviously nerd out about so much kind of all tied in there together and work out really, really well. So Elliot, man, this is, while we're kind of, I guess, rounding this thing out, dude, what are some like deliverables, right? Like if you had to put a hard number to like the amount of money or the amount of leads that content has brought in over the time we've worked together, where would you ballpark that to be?
So I'll say it this way. So I run a 7-figure business, and somewhere between 30 and 40% of my leads come from stuff Cam and I do together.
There it is. There it is. That's the big home run hitter and now what I want to ask, right, is coming from a 7-figure business owner, what do people miss about content and about YouTube and about putting themselves out there in a way that just makes sense? What don't people understand?
So a couple things. They don't understand the trust component of business and the way that video delivers trust in a way that no other medium does. Like, I do Twitter, but it's short. There's no trust that I get there. I do LinkedIn. I got 15,000 people, but it's not trust built. They already trust me for something else. But on YouTube, if somebody sits and watches my video for 5 minutes and they get 2 or 3 nuggets that they believe that they didn't have before, not only are they more educated and interested, but they trust me. And so when they call me, they say stuff like, hey, I saw a couple of your YouTube videos about this topic. and I want to use your services, and we're already at sign up mode before I have to explain what I do, how I'm different, all that kind of stuff. But the piece that I want to come back to is the trust, because people do business with folks that they trust. The second thing people miss is that it doesn't have to be hard. Like, I thought it had to be hard before, so I stopped. But with Cam, he made it so easy. And if I had been a different kind of person, he would have optimized the process for me. So he made it easy for me. It can be made easy for you. The third thing I think is that people don't recognize that they may be 1 or 2 steps ahead of their target customer. And still, that information is not all the way complete to 35 plus years of information, but it's still 2 or 3 steps ahead of the ICP. It's almost their duty to get that information out into the public domain so that people can actually move forward. And even though they may be nervous about not knowing everything, knowing something is still marketable. And so I think those are 3 things about content that people miss.
Which I love, right? I think that you close clients frequently that sometimes you don't talk to until after they pay, because they trust you so much, right? There was one guy who you said, and remind me of the story, you said he was on the plane and he had watched all of your videos from the time he got on the flight to left, something like that, right?
Yep. So he was driving. So he was taking a road trip from somewhere in Florida to somewhere else in Florida. He listened to a bunch of my videos about financial due diligence. And when he got to the place that he was landing or arrived in, he sent me a note, hey, I want to use you for quality of learning services. How do I get signed up? So think about how powerful that. I didn't talk to him, touch him. I wasn't in the car. I didn't know he existed. He was older than me, frankly, which is another piece that I didn't recognize was going to happen. Some of the demographics that are using YouTube blow my mind. And then he knew enough from the videos to hire me. I also had a client, just to add on to it. I asked him, hey, why'd you choose me? Because he uses me as an incredible, like, integral part of his deal execution program. And he's like, well, I took 4 lawyers, I picked one. I took 4 lenders, and I picked one. But with your video content, and then how easy it was to download something from your website, and then the other video content you had in certain spaces, I didn't actually need to talk to anybody else. And I hear that again and again and again. And every time I hear it, I smile, because I know that these weekly, meetings with Cam when we do this filming is delivering sort of Elliott salespeople on the YouTube channel in great ways, so that I am talking to him, Cam, just asynchronously and through YouTube. Yeah.
And it's crazy how that works. That is like the thing that I wish more, especially in higher ticket spaces, understood. Now, Elliot, man, my absolute last question. I want to hear you brag on yourself a little bit. Over the next 12 months, where do you see the business being? As far as the YouTube channel itself, let me just say content as a whole, and then the actual business itself. Where do you see it being this time next year?
I think my YouTube channel will be in a place where people in my industry talk about it as the model for how they should do it 2 years after I started, which happens in other stuff. It happened on Twitter and LinkedIn. So I think that'll be one thing that I think will occur. I think in terms of business, I'll be on pace. I probably won't be there, but I'll be on pace on a run rate basis to double my business in a year. I know that with the educational products and how much work Cam has sort of stretched his team to do for me, which also was amazing. And then I think in terms of the content, I think we'll just be more dialed in. In fact, Cam is helping me figure out the best places in my apartment to film, and being thoughtful about how we're going to do that. And even that's going to optimize the video content. And I see how all those things will lead to more interest, more watches, more videos, more conversions, and more people I can help.
Man, I love to hear it. Guys, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Look, Elliot is killing it right now. And to be honest, he doesn't have to be the only one. I want you guys to click the first link down below if you want to get more information on how Elliot does exactly how he does, and how we could potentially replicate that process inside of your business. Until this next one, see you guys later. Peace.